Welcome to today's briefing. Guess where we're going today? That's right, the same place as last time, Pinky, the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden, because of everything that's going on over here. So today's video has been changed. This was going to be about how much action we're taking with Yemen, the United States Navy, striking at Yemenis launch sites and leadership centers and capabilities, taking out their leaders and knocking out their ability to damage ships as they transit from the Gulf of Aden into the Red Sea and back and forth. But instead, that has not happened. So that changes this video entirely to the focus of why isn't the United States, despite being in position for overmatch against the Houthis, aren't we doing anything? What is going on? And this has exposed a glaring weakness in the United States military chain of command. And it's very concerning to me. But let's start at the beginning. What's going on over there? We have two really large fleets, in my opinion, in the Red Sea and one in the Gulf of Aden. In the Red Sea, we have USS Baton with the Carter Hall alongside her. Those two ships are chock full of the 26th Marine Expeditionary Unit, bunch of Marines getting ready to go out there and shoot stuff and break things and have a good time. But they're on board the ship. They're just waiting. They're on hot standby on the ready line. Escorting them were 3 Arleigh Burke destroyers. Just this week, a 4th one has been added to the Red Sea. I'm not going to say the name of it because I don't know if that's public yet, but just know there's 4 there now. That one was joined with HMS Diamond. That's a Royal Navy air defense ship. Very good, very capable. And also the French ship Languedoc, if I'm saying that name right, I'm probably not, is there as well. So that is the fleet, quote unquote, in the Red Sea, beginning this Operation Prosperity Guardian that the Americans are organizing there with the task force. Okay, in the Gulf of Aden, down south, there you can see the Ike carrier strike group is between Somalia and Yemen in that narrow body of water called the Gulf of Aden. And that is a complete fleet with an aircraft carrier at the center, support ships and defense destroyers around her doing the job. They are in position to strike right now, but are only doing air operations and monitoring the situation with the occasional engagement of a drone if it comes out over the Gulf of Aden. So Operation Prosperity Guardian has not gone into effect yet, and we have not done anything in Yemen to keep them from attacking the ships. So merchant vessels have turned away. Some of them, as you can see here with the red and green, some of them continue to go through, but from the Red Sea to the Gulf of Aden here. But Maersk's ships, the entire fleet of those cargo ships of that company have been told to either halt, go into a holding pattern, or in many cases been redirected around Africa, the long way around the Horn of Africa. And that is causing ripple effects in the shipping world. And I should take a moment now to direct everybody to a YouTube channel hosted by Sal, and a guy who's growing his channel quickly because he has a great perspective on this. The name of the channel is What's Going On with Shipping. I'll leave a link in this video to that because I really want you to get his civilian shipping expertise perspective on what's going on with all these ships. Well, and bounce that off my perspective from my background. And once you have both those videos, you'll have a real good understanding of what's going on here. But just know that there's still shipping happening between Gulf of Aden and Red Sea. It's just not nearly as much as it was because of this inability for the United States to protect ships, which is what the Navy's built for, originally anyway. We've just seemed to have lost our way, and we're going to talk about what happened, what caused this, and why aren't we doing anything to the Houthis to prevent them from attacking ships? That hasn't begun either. All right, so this all comes down to 3 people here. The Chief of Naval Operations, Lisa Franchetti, the Secretary of Defense, Lloyd Austin, and Secretary of the Navy, Carlos del Toro, are responsible for coming up with plans and making recommendations to the president. The Chief of Naval Operations is pushing to begin escorting ships now and then growing the program slowly. And this is a very practical approach. This is the approach that the French are taking. Where you start with one ship, you grab a cargo ship, and you move them through the straits. You move them from the Red Sea to the Gulf of Aden. And when you're on the other side, you grab a ship on that side and you escort them back the other way. That's what she wants to do. It's a very practical, effective can implement it immediately plan. Okay. On the other side of that, we have Secretary of Defense, and he's pushing an organizational approach first. He wants to organize the entire operation first, get all the T's crossed and I's dotted, all the ships in position, and then give the go code and begin the operation. And that has not happened either. You know, that takes time to do, but it's been weeks now since the first attack on these cargo ships, and we still haven't done anything. So this organization is taking much longer than it should, or it's not going to happen at all. There appears to be, from an outsider's point of view, infighting between the top Navy leaders, delaying the implementation of this operation. So that's what I think is going on right here between these three people. And what needs to happen, and it clearly is not happening, is to resolve this crisis of indecision. This inability to take action is crippling the United States Navy's ability to do its job. Everybody is in place, but the leaders are indecisive or unable to take action, make the order happen. So the Chief of Naval Operations plan to begin small starts the process. The Secretary of Defense organization plan is somewhere in progress. We don't know where. Our sailors and soldiers are well-trained and well-equipped, but poorly led at the top. And I'm not talking about the operational commanders. The captains and admirals at sea on board the ship controlling the fleets are doing a fantastic job. They're doing exactly what they're trained to do and what they're supposed to be doing and following orders, ready to project power and protect ships. But above them, the leaders in Washington, the leaders back home at the very top of the chain of command, are failing the operational commands in theater. That's what's going on here. We are the largest, strongest military in the world, and we can't implement a single decision. So, how much does the president even know about this infighting is my first question. You know, I'm not privy to any kind of behind the doors conversations in the White House or the Pentagon, of course, so I don't know. But it appears from the Joe average voter out here in flyover country making YouTube videos from my basement that either the president doesn't know what's going on or does know and can't make a decision. And neither one of those are good things. I mean, does the president of the United States side with the first female chief of naval operations who broke multiple glass ceilings, becoming the highest ranking military officer in the United States military? Or does he side with the marginalized minority defense secretary who leads the strongest military in the world? Which one does he go with? He doesn't make a decision. We don't know. The responsibility for this order lies in the end with the president. Everything is just a recommendation to him, to the commander in chief. The president must decide how to proceed. And so far, we've got nothing but inaction. The French have had enough of the America's bureaucratic baloney, and they've begun escorting European ships with their single frigate. They're not waiting anymore to take action, and it's actually, I think, embarrassing to the United States Navy that the U.S. Navy has two fleets with multiple destroyers that's not taking any action, doing anything. The French have one ship, a frigate in the Red Sea, and it's already accomplished more than two American fleets have. This really exposes how inept we are at command and control of our own ships. We're good at putting them in position, and then we don't know how to use them. And the fact that there isn't even a plan, this is a great point that Sal brought up. We've had a task force fighting pirates and in the theater stationed out of Djibouti since at least 2015. I don't know how much longer it goes from that. And you would think that the closing of this narrow between the Gulf of Aden and the Red Sea would at least be considered, and they would have a framework and outline a plan of action to enable if this exact scenario ever happens, which it has. Why don't they just look up that plan and pull it out and be like, oh, we should do these things? That's not happening, apparently. Or that plan was never made, possibly. You know, like I said, I don't know for sure, but it certainly isn't being enacted, so I'm beginning to think maybe it doesn't exist. But the French, plan or no plan, they know how to move. They've got a ship and they're freaking using it. We've got two fleets and a command center in Djibouti, and we're doing nothing. We're just monitoring. We're shooting down a drone occasionally. You know, it's so frustrating. So I've kind of pivoted on this whole, Houthi leader, statement thing. He came out earlier this week and said, you know what, we're targeting the U.S. ships too. If they want to get in the way of what we want to do, guess what, boys? You're the target now. And I was like, well, that's going to be the end of him. Well, apparently not, because we haven't done anything about it. So I want to say thank you. I want to say thank you to this Houthi leader for exposing the glaring weakness in the United States chain of command at the top, at the most critical point of decision making. Everybody else at the bottom operational level is doing great, but the top is just inept. I don't know what other word to use. They're unable of action. So if this inaction in the face of crisis happened with a near peer competitor, like China or Russia is what I'm thinking about, the consequences of inaction would be much more severe, and the Houthi leaders have exposed this weakness before that confrontation happens with a near-peer competitor. So again, thank you to them for showing us, the average American voter who's looking at this whole situation going, what in the world are we doing? And letting us know just how inept the chain of command is at the top. So I'll leave you with this. The next president is likely to be a wartime president. Direct military conflict with an increasingly desperate China is likely. The person in the White House is going to need to be decisive and be able to implement action as recommended by the Department of Defense. The civilian administration that comes with the next president is the Secretary of the Navy, Secretary of Defense, and Secretary of State. Those positions need to be filled with people who understand how to make a recommendation and get out of the way of the operations people. Let the military do its duty. We have to get this decision right. 2024 is going to be a huge election year. Both candidates have been presidents for 4 years. We've seen what they can do and how they operate. Which one will you choose to lead the United States into a war? Man. We might be fucked.
6 years down, got my head in the clouds. Sometimes it's so hard to keep the dark thoughts out. Oh, I don't know how to feel. Let's hop on a plane and fly down to Brazil. Yeah, time don't stop and I don't want to waste it, waiting for something that I keep on chasing.